In 2024, over 70% of all major releases were either sequels, remakes, or remasters. That's the reality of AAA gaming today. The majority of studios appear too scared to try something daring and new, preferring to rehash the same stuff over and over again. But here's the real question: who's to blame for this? Is it the studios? Is it us players? Is it both? AAA studios are a business first and foremost. Developing a blockbuster game has become a monumental financial risk for these companies. Modern AAA titles can cost upwards of $200 million plus, with many far exceeding that amount. And marketing budgets themselves sometimes even match or exceed the production costs. For example, Cyberpunk 2077 reportedly cost $316 million to create and market. And of course, at those stakes, there's little room for error. Shareholders and investors, of course, expect consistent returns, not gambles on new IPs that might flop. Sequels, remakes, and remasters provide this solution to them. They leverage existing intellectual property that already has a built-in fan base. This means less money spent on marketing and more predictable sales for them. For example, Grand Theft Auto 5, which was released in 2013, has been remastered multiple times on various platforms and has sold over 180 million copies globally in that time. This one title alone generates significant revenue for Rockstar Games over a decade later. And let's not overlook nostalgia as a selling point. Titles like The Last of Us Part 1 remake and Resident Evil 4 remakes tap into the emotional attachment players have to these games. Studios know how to play this card, delivering enhanced versions of beloved classics. These remasters are relatively cheaper to produce compared to new IPs, making them an obvious choice for studios looking to balance their books. So yes, studios are indeed playing it safe. But can we blame them when the alternative, which is of course creating a new IP with new ideas, could cost hundreds of millions of dollars and can completely tank their reputation if it doesn't succeed? When the stakes are this high, safety isn't just a strategy, it's survival. But studios aren't the only ones sticking to what's safe. Us as players, we are just as guilty.
No. It's not true. That's impossible!
We all love to complain about sequels, remakes, and remasters ad nauseum, but the sales figures tell a completely different story. Franchises like Call of Duty, FIFA, and Assassin's Creed dominate sales charts year after year. In 2022, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was the top-selling game in the US, marking yet another year where the franchise led the market. Clearly, players are putting their money where their comfort lies. And there's also the psychological pull of familiarity. Sequels and remakes are like comfort food for gamers. You know exactly what you're getting. At the end of the day, most players would rather boot up something familiar than take a $70 gamble on an untested new IP. This isn't just anecdotal. Studies on consumer behavior show that people gravitate towards familiar products when they feel stressed or overwhelmed, a trend that extends to gaming. Then of course there's FOMO, the fear of missing out. Studios capitalize on this by creating massive marketing campaigns that make new releases feel like must-haves. Whether it's social media buzz or heaps of Twitch streamers hyping the latest installment, pressure to join the conversation feels immense. Even if players aren't that thrilled about another sequel, the fear of being left out can often tip the scales for them. Finally, of course, nostalgia plays a massive role. Nostalgia is a powerful tool, and studios know exactly how to leverage it. By bringing classic titles to new platforms with updated visuals, they're giving their fans a chance to relive some of their favourite moments in gaming. Financially, it's a complete no-brainer. This isn't necessarily a studio or a player problem. We're simply creatures of habit, and habits are hard to break. At its core, the issue boils down to comfort. Both studios and players are locked in a cycle of sticking to what's safe because it's easier than venturing into the unknown. Studios know what works, so they keep on doing it. Players know what they like, so they keep buying it. For studios, it's about minimizing the risk and maximizing the reward. Sequels and remasters are less resource intensive than creating new IPs. Ubisoft can churn out Assassin's Creed titles like chicken nuggets at McDonald's.
That'll be $4, baby! You want fries with that?
Because the groundwork, which is gameplay mechanics, lore, and even some assets, is already in place. This efficiency is attractive in an industry where delays and production issues are common. Players, on the other hand, gravitate more towards familiar experiences because they know what to expect. A new Call of Duty or FIFA game might not reinvent the wheel, but it doesn't have to. It provides a reliable, familiar experience. This is particularly appealing in an era where gamers are inundated with options. Familiarity cuts through the noise. But of course, this comfort comes comes at a cost. The industry risks stagnation as both players and studios stick to what's safe. Even beloved franchises can only recycle ideas for so long before the fatigue sets in. Studios and players alike must recognize that breaking out of this cycle is essential for the industry's growth. Now, here's the downside from a player's perspective. Sticking to the same sequels, remasters, remakes, and franchises is limiting the potential of the gaming industry as a whole. But before we get into that, shameless begging for subs.
Please, sir. I want some more.
Now back to the video. Every time we buy into the same old thing, we're straight up telling the studios that innovation doesn't matter. Studios don't need to take risks if we keep rewarding the same old thing. Think about the games that redefine the industry as we know it. Minecraft, PUBG, Dark Souls, even League of Legends. These weren't safe bets. They were bold ideas that took risks, and they paid off. PUBG, for example, essentially created the Battle Royale system, at least for a mainstream audience, which has since dominated the industry. But how often do we see players supporting new IPs with the same enthusiasm as established franchises? A strong example of this is Forspoken, 2023 action RPG by Square Enix that attempted to innovate with a dynamic magical parkour system and cinematic combat. Now, on paper, it sounded like a fresh take on the open world genre, yet it received overwhelmingly negative reviews due to weak storytelling, uninspired world building, and awkward dialogue. Even though it brought something unique to the table, the game became a cautionary tale for trying to do too much without nailing the fundamentals. And gamers were quick to rip apart the game on social media, and the overwhelmingly harsh criticism buried any chance it had of being improved through patches or updates. The knee-jerk reaction of new ideas sends a clear message to studios. Risk isn't worth it because failure won't just be criticized, it'll be completely annihilated. If players want innovation, you need to back it up with your wallet. That means giving new IPs a chance, even if they're not perfect out of the gate. It means supporting indie developers who often lead the charge in creativity, and it means being more constructive in our criticism rather than tearing down ambitious projects before they've had a chance to grow. But it's not just on us players to demand better, the studios have to step up too. While us as players have to bear some responsibility for this, the studios have no shortage of excuses for avoiding innovation. From financial pressures to the fear of failure, their reluctance is understandable, but it's not excusable. Innovation isn't just good for the players, it's good for business. Look at what smaller teams have accomplished. League of Legends is derived from Dota, which of course started as a mod for Warcraft 3 and made the MOBA genre into what it is today. The aforementioned PUBG popularized Battle Royales, which in turn influenced juggernauts like Fortnite and Call of Duty's Warzone. AAA studios do have the resources to take smaller risks, but too often they simply choose not to. And even when they do take risks, they do not handle it well. Forspoken, for example, tried to innovate, but lacked the cohesive design to make its new ideas shine. Instead of learning from these mistakes, studios often retreat further into their comfort zones. And the long-term consequences of this strategy are already becoming apparent. Franchises like Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty are seeing diminishing returns as players grow tired of the same formulas. If studios want to maintain their relevance, they need to strike a balance, leveraging the security of sequels to fund these bold and innovative projects. So who's really to blame for the endless cycle of sequels, remasters, and remakes? Is it the studios for playing it safe, players for rewarding them, or is it just the natural result of an industry driven by profit and habit? The answer isn't simple, and maybe it doesn't need to be. Studios and players both have a role to play, and the future of gaming depends on what we collectively prioritise as a group. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. I've attached a poll to this video, and I'd love to see what people really think about it in the numbers, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. And if you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye for now.